When I was 8 years old, I made a promise to a girl under an oak tree. We carved it into the bark with a marker. 4 words and 2 names. I thought it was just a game. I thought wrong. My name is Ella Rivers. And this is the story of the silliest, most serious, most life-changing promise I have ever kept. I want to tell you something before I begin. I am not the kind of woman that love stories are usually written about. I am not graceful. I am not mysterious. I do not walk into rooms and make people turn their heads, unless I have just knocked something over, in which case, yes, every single head turns, but not for the right reasons. I am the woman who shows up to important meetings with coffee stains on her shirt. The woman who laughs too loudly at her own jokes. The woman who once tripped over her own feet walking to receive an award. An award for, and I need you to appreciate the irony here, an award for outstanding attention to detail. That is me. Ella Rivers. 27 years old. Production assistant. Certified disaster in human form. And somehow I am the woman that Lucy Collins chose to love. I still do not fully understand it. Even now, sitting here with everything I know, everything I lived through, I still sometimes look at my life and think, how did this happen to you, Ella? How did someone like you end up in a love story like this? But that is exactly the thing about love, isn't it? It does not come for the people who are ready. It does not knock politely and wait for you to put on something nice and compose yourself. It arrives like a song you forgot you knew, suddenly playing from somewhere deep inside you, filling up every room in your chest before you even realize the music has started. This is my song. And it started on an ordinary Tuesday morning when I was late for work and arguing with my umbrella. October 3rd began badly. Not dramatically badly. Not catastrophically badly. Just the quiet, grinding kind of bad that makes you feel like the universe has forgotten your name and replaced it with, "Not today." My alarm had been going off for 14 minutes before I actually heard it. I know it was 14 minutes because my phone, in its infinite cruelty, shows you exactly how many times you have snoozed. 4 times. I had snoozed 4 times, and I was now lying sideways across my bed with one sock on, staring at the ceiling with the specific expression of a woman who has already accepted defeat before the day has even started. Ella, I said to myself out loud. I do that sometimes. Talk to myself. It helps. You need to get up. You have work. Your boss will fire you if you are late again. My boss. Mr. Gerald Patterson. A man so committed to the art of stress that I was fairly certain he sweated deadlines. He had told me 3 times in the past month that I was operating on borrowed time. I did not know exactly what that meant, but the way he said it, with that tight little smile and those narrowed eyes, made my stomach do unpleasant things every single morning. So I got up. I showered in 4 minutes, I burned my toast, I poured coffee into my travel mug and immediately knocked the travel mug off the counter, and I left my apartment 7 minutes late with damp hair, no breakfast, and the profound feeling that today was going to require everything I had. Outside it had decided to rain. Not heavily. Just enough to be annoying. The kind of rain that makes you feel personally targeted. I wrestled my umbrella open on the front steps of my building, which sounds simple, but my umbrella had a broken latch that required a very specific 2-handed technique involving a twist, a firm press, and occasionally a mild threat. I was standing there on the steps muttering at it when my phone buzzed. It was a text from my colleague and only true work friend, Dana. Have you seen the new billboard they put up on 5th? Walk past it on your way in. You're going to lose your mind. I stared at the message. Then I looked up at the sky. Then I looked back at the message. Dana, I typed back with one hand, still wrestling the umbrella with the other. I am already losing my mind. Can it wait? Her reply came immediately. No. Walk past 5th. Trust me. I did not trust her. But 5th Street was on my way anyway, so I walked. I heard it before I saw it. That is the thing about a Lucy Collins billboard. It does not just exist quietly. It commands the space around it. Someone had set up a small speaker on the corner, one of those portable ones that construction workers use, and it was playing her latest single at a volume that suggested the person responsible had very strong feelings about it. The song drifted toward me through the rain and something happened in my chest. Something small. Something I would not understand until much later. I looked up, and there she was. 20 feet tall, lit up even in the gray morning light, her dark hair falling loose over one shoulder and her eyes looking directly at the camera with an expression that managed to be both powerful and completely heartbreakingly warm. The billboard read in clean white letters, Lucy Collins. The Constellation Tour. Coming this November. I stopped walking. Right there on the wet pavement, umbrella finally open above my head, coffee-less and damp-haired, I stopped and looked up at that billboard like I had forgotten how my legs worked. I had not said her name out loud in years. Not because I had forgotten her. That would have been easier actually, to simply forget. But the human brain does not work that way. The human brain keeps certain things locked away in small, quiet rooms, and Lucy Collins lived in one of those rooms. Had lived there since I was 8 years old. She looked exactly like herself. That was the strangest part. 20 years had passed. She was famous now. Genuinely, properly famous, the kind of famous where people scream when they see your face and your songs play in supermarkets. But standing there looking up at her photograph, I could still see the girl I remembered. The girl with the gap between her front teeth and the laugh that was slightly too big for her body and the absolute conviction that every idea she had was a good one, even the terrible ones. Especially the terrible ones. Like the promise. I had not thought about the promise in a very long time. We were 8 years old. It was summer. We were in the park behind Lucy's grandmother's house. The one with the big oak tree that had bark rough enough to scratch your initials into if you pressed hard enough. Lucy had found a thick marker somewhere. I never knew where she found things, she just always had exactly what she needed. And she had looked at me with those serious eyes and said, "Ella, I want us to make a promise." What kind of promise? I had asked. The forever kind, she had said. And then she had told me her plan. We would promise to marry each other. When we grew up. Because we were best friends and best friends should stay together forever, and this was, according to 8-year-old Lucy Collins, simply the most logical solution to the problem of life. I had thought about it for approximately 4 seconds. Okay, I had said. We carved it into the tree. Little crooked letters, pressed deep into the bark with that marker. Ella plus Lucy. Forever. We promise. We shook hands. Very seriously. The way children do when they want something to feel official. And then we ran back to the house because Lucy's grandmother was making lemonade and we had the attention spans of golden retrievers and the promise was filed away somewhere in the back of our hearts. Sweet and silly and completely harmless. 3 months later, Lucy's family moved away. And just like that, she was gone. I stood on 5th Street for longer than I should have. The rain tapped gently on my umbrella. The song played on. Lucy's voice, that ridiculous, beautiful, unfair voice that could make a grocery list sound like a prayer, filled the wet morning air around me. She made it, I thought. She actually made it. There was no jealousy in that thought. I want to be clear about that. There was something else, something warmer and more complicated. Something that felt a little like pride, even though I had not been part of her life for 2 decades and had absolutely no right to feel proud of anything she had accomplished. But I felt it anyway. I felt it, and then I shook myself because I was now officially 10 minutes late, and Mr. Patterson's face was floating in my mind with that tight little smile, and I needed to move. I moved. I did not think about Lucy Collins for the rest of the morning. That is not entirely true. But I tried. The assignment came at 2:15 in the afternoon. I was at my desk eating a sad desk sandwich and pretending to review a location permit application, when Mr. Patterson appeared at my cubicle doorway. He had a folder in his hand and the expression of a man delivering news he found mildly inconvenient. "Rivers," he said. "Mr. Patterson," I said, sitting up very straight. "I am reassigning you for the rest of the week. Production assistant support for an outside shoot. Music video. They need bodies on the ground. The location is 3 blocks from here. And frankly, you are the most available person I have right now." I blinked. A music video? Is there an echo in here? Yes. Music video. Tomorrow morning 6 a.m. call time. Don't be late, don't break anything, and don't embarrass this office. He paused. More than usual. He dropped the folder on my desk and walked away. I opened the folder. There was a lot of standard paperwork. Location permits. Production schedules. A call sheet with a long list of names and responsibilities. I flipped through it quickly, scanning for details. And then I saw it. At the top of the first page in simple black letters. Production. The Constellation Tour. Official music video shoot. Artist. Lucy Collins. The sandwich stopped halfway to my mouth. I read it again. Lucy Collins. I put the sandwich down very carefully. I looked at the ceiling. I looked back at the paper. I picked up my phone and texted Dana with one word. Dana. She replied instantly. I know. How do you know? Because I put your name on the reassignment list. I stared at my phone. Why? Because you walked past that billboard this morning and I saw your face from the coffee shop window and Ella, honey, you stood there for 4 whole minutes. I had no response to that. Largely because she was right and we both knew it. It will be fine, Dana typed. She probably won't even notice you. You'll just be one of many assistants on a big shoot. In and out. Easy. I read that message. I wanted to believe it. I genuinely, desperately wanted to believe it. But here is the thing about being Ella Rivers. Nothing is ever easy. Nothing is ever quiet. Nothing is ever in and out. The universe, for whatever reason, had decided a long time ago that my life should be experienced at full volume, with maximum visibility, and zero opportunity for dignified exits. I closed the folder. I finished my sandwich. I went home, laid out my most professional, least wrinkled outfit, set 3 alarms, and told myself very firmly that tomorrow would be fine. Tomorrow would be absolutely fine. It was not fine. It started fine. I was on time, miraculously, genuinely on time, which felt like a sign from above. The shoot location was a converted warehouse 3 blocks from my office, and by 6:15 I was there with my lanyard on and my clipboard in hand, looking competent and calm and completely in control. The set was electric. Crew members moved in every direction with the focused energy of people who had places to be and things to build. Lights were being rigged. Cameras were being positioned. Someone was shouting something about a fog machine. Someone else was responding that the fog machine was never the problem. I navigated through it all carefully, checking names on my clipboard, delivering messages, doing exactly what I was supposed to do. For 45 beautiful minutes I was invisible, efficient, professional, and then I turned a corner carrying a tray of coffees for the lighting team. 6 cups, carefully balanced, very full, and I did not see the cable on the floor. The cable was thick and black and lying flat against the ground, and I should absolutely have seen it. Anyone would have seen it. It was not hidden. It was simply there, doing nothing wrong, existing peacefully, and I walked directly into it with my left foot at full stride. Time in that moment did what time always does in my worst moments. It slowed down. I felt my foot catch. I felt the shift in my balance, that horrible, tilting, slow-motion recognition of oh no. And I had exactly enough time to think, please. Please not here. Not today. Not on this set, before the tray left my hands and I went down. 6 coffees. 6 full, hot, perfectly made coffees. They did not fall quietly. The crash was extraordinary. The tray hit the ground with a sound like a cymbal. The cups bounced and rolled. Coffee spread across the concrete floor in a dark, spreading stain that seemed, to my horror-struck eyes, to cover approximately the same square footage as a small swimming pool. I landed on my hands and knees in the middle of it, my clipboard skidding away, my lanyard flipped over my shoulder, my dignity somewhere I could not locate. The set went quiet. Not completely quiet, but the particular quiet of a large group of people who have all looked up at the same time. I stayed very still on the floor for one moment. Just one. The way you do when you are hoping that perhaps the ground will simply absorb you. Take you in. Let you become part of the concrete and spare you from what comes next. The ground did not absorb me. I heard someone stifle a laugh. I heard someone else whisper something. And then I heard footsteps, quick, light, purposeful footsteps coming toward me across the concrete. Hey, are you okay? The voice stopped my heart. Not because it was famous. Not because I had heard it on the radio and on billboards and coming from that speaker on Fifth Street just yesterday morning. It stopped my heart because it was familiar. Because some part of me, some deep, sleeping, locked-away part, recognized it before my brain caught up. I looked up, and Lucy Collins was crouching in front of me. Not the billboard. Not the photograph. Not the voice from the radio. Her, real and present and close enough that I could see the small scar on her chin from the bicycle accident when we were 9. Close enough that I could see her eyes, those warm, dark, impossibly kind eyes, looking at me with concern. And then recognition. It moved across her face like light. Slow at first, then all at once. Her lips parted. Her head tilted. And then, quietly, in a voice that sounded exactly like it had 20 years ago when we were children and the world was small and full of oak trees and marker promises, he said my name. Ella. The set was still watching. Coffee was still spreading across the floor. My clipboard was somewhere behind me and my knees were wet and my heart was doing something completely unreasonable inside my chest. I looked at her. At Lucy Collins, 20 feet tall on billboards, voice on every radio, face on every screen. Lucy Collins, who was crouching on a concrete floor to look me in the eye. Lucy Collins, who remembered my name. Hi, I said. And then, because I am Ella Rivers and this is simply how my life works. I slipped trying to stand up and nearly took her down with me. She caught me. Both hands firm and warm on my arms, steadying me like it was the most natural thing in the world. And when I was upright and stable and my heart had relocated itself from my throat back to my chest, she did something I was not prepared for. She laughed. Not at me. Not the polite, controlled laugh of a celebrity managing an awkward moment. The real laugh. The one I remembered. The one that was too big for her body and lit up her whole face and made everyone around her want to join in. Ella Rivers, she said, still laughing, still holding my arms. Of course it's you. And just like that, 20 years dissolved. We were not famous singer and fumbling production assistant. We were not strangers with a buried past. We were just Ella and Lucy standing too close together on a cold concrete floor with coffee everywhere. And something that had been sleeping for a very long time was beginning, slowly and quietly and without asking my permission, to wake up. I did not know it then. I did not know that this Tuesday, this ordinary rainy sandwich-eating clipboard-carrying Tuesday, was the day my life changed direction entirely. I did not know that the girl on the billboard had been carrying something in her heart for 20 years. And I did not know that the promise we carved into a tree when we were 8 years old had never, not once, stopped being real. But I was about to find out. Here is something nobody tells you about reunions. The movies always get them wrong. In the movies, two people find each other after years apart and everything is soft lighting and slow music and perfectly chosen words that land exactly right. Nobody says the wrong thing. Nobody stands there with wet knees and coffee on their shoes, opening and closing their mouth like a fish that has made several poor decisions. In real life, in my life, reunions look like this. You are on your hands and knees on a concrete floor. There is coffee everywhere. Approximately 40 production crew members are watching. And the girl you made a forever promise to when you were 8 years old is crouching in front of you with her hands on your arms, laughing that laugh you never quite forgot, saying your name like it is something she has kept somewhere safe. That is how my reunion with Lucy Collins went. And somehow, it was more beautiful than anything the movies ever showed me. She did not let go of my arms right away. That was the first thing I noticed. Once my heart had finished its dramatic performance and settled back into something resembling a normal rhythm. Her hands stayed on my arms for just a moment longer than necessary. Warm, steady, like she was making sure I was real. Then she let go and stepped back and looked at me with her head tilted and that smile sitting quietly on her face. Not the big stage smile I had seen in photographs, but something smaller and more personal, like a smile she did not give to everyone. You work here, she said. I looked around at the coffee disaster surrounding us. I was working here. I may have just been fired. She glanced at the floor. Then back at me. How many cups was that? 6. 6, she repeated. They were all full. She pressed her lips together. I could see her trying very hard not to laugh again and losing the battle spectacularly. Ella. I know. 6 cups. Lucy, I am aware. She lost the battle. The laugh came out, warm and helpless and completely unguarded. And despite everything, despite the coffee and the witnesses and the quiet devastation of my professional reputation, I felt something loosen in my chest. Like a knot I had been carrying for a long time, slowly, carefully coming undone. A crew member appeared with a mop. Then another with paper towels. I stepped aside, apologizing to everyone within a 5-foot radius, and Lucy fell into step beside me as we moved away from the wreckage. We walked to the edge of the set. Neither of us said anything for a moment. We just stood there, side by side, while the world moved busily around us, and the 20 years between us sat quietly in the air like something neither of us quite knew how to name yet. You look the same, she said finally. I looked at her sideways. I look exactly the same as I did at 8? The energy, she said simply. Same energy. Chaotic. Wonderfully chaotic, she said. And the way she said wonderfully, gently without hesitation, like it was simply a fact, did something to me that I was not prepared to examine at 6:45 in the morning. We did not have long. The set director, a tall, efficient woman named Priya who moved like she was always 15 seconds ahead of everyone else, appeared and steered Lucy back toward the staging area with the quiet authority of someone who had wrangled celebrities for a living. Lucy went, but she looked back over her shoulder at me. Don't disappear, she said. It was simple. 2 words. And yet they landed somewhere deep and stayed there. I spent the rest of the morning doing my job, carefully, slowly, with an almost painful level of attention to every cable and cord and surface in my path. I delivered messages. I managed schedules. I kept my coffee cups low to the ground. I was the model of professional caution. But every time Lucy stepped in front of the camera, I stopped. I could not help it. Watching her work was like watching someone become fully, completely themselves. The moment the music started and the cameras rolled, something shifted in her. A light came on, a frequency changed, and she moved through the space like she had been born specifically for it. Her voice, even in the half-sung guide takes they used for blocking, filled the warehouse from floor to ceiling. I had always known she could sing. Even at 8 years old, Lucy sang constantly. In the park, in the kitchen, walking down the street, completely unself-conscious, as if music was simply her natural language. But this was different. This was 20 years of practice and passion and discipline made visible. This was who she had become. I was proud of her. That same complicated, warm, completely irrational pride from yesterday morning on 5th Street. Except now she was standing 30 feet away from me instead of 20 feet above me on a billboard, and it was considerably harder to simply shake it off and keep moving. Lunch break came at noon. I was sitting outside the warehouse on a low concrete step, eating another sad desk sandwich. I had a system, I made them the night before, when a shadow fell over me. I looked up. Lucy was standing there with 2 paper plates, each holding a very generous slice of margarita pizza. She was still in her wardrobe, a deep blue jacket over a simple white shirt, but she had taken her hair down from the styled look the makeup team had given her, and it fell loose around her shoulders the way it had in the billboard photograph. She held out one of the plates. The catering table has pizza, she said. I thought you might be hungry. I looked at my sad desk sandwich, then at the pizza, then at her. You didn't have to. I know, she said and sat down beside me on the step without waiting to be invited, the way she had always done everything, simply and directly without overthinking it. We ate in silence for a minute. It was not uncomfortable silence. It was the particular silence of 2 people who once knew each other very well, feeling their way back toward that knowing. I saw your billboard, I said. Yesterday morning. On 5th Street. She turned to look at me. You did. I was late for work and arguing with my umbrella and I just looked up and there you were. She was quiet for a moment. What did you think? I thought. I stopped. I looked at my pizza. I thought that you made it. That you actually did what you always said you were going to do. I always said I was going to be a singer, she said softly. You always said it like it was already true, I told her. Even when we were kids. You never said, I want to be a singer. You said, I am going to be a singer. Like it was just a matter of time. He smiled at that. Not the stage smile. The small, personal one. I remembered you, she said quietly. All this time. I never stopped. The step was not very wide. We were sitting close together, shoulders almost touching, and the afternoon light was falling warm and golden across the pavement in front of us. Somewhere inside the warehouse, someone was playing one of her songs through a monitor speaker, and it drifted out through the open door and wrapped around us like something deliberate. I remembered you too, I said, because it was true and she deserved the truth, and some things are too important to soften. She looked at me then. Really looked at me the way she had when she was crouching on the floor this morning. Direct and warm and completely unhurried, like she had all the time in the world and she was choosing to spend it looking at me. Good, she said simply. And then Priya appeared in the doorway and announced that lunch was over, and we stood up, and the moment folded itself away like a letter kept for later. But I felt it, even as I walked back inside. Even as the afternoon shoot resumed and the cameras rolled and the set filled back up with noise and movement and organized chaos. I felt it the way you feel the sun after a long winter. Quietly, deeply, like something your body remembers before your mind catches up. On the last day of the shoot, Lucy found me during the final setup. The warehouse had been transformed for the closing scene. String lights draped from the ceiling, a shallow layer of artificial fog rolling across the floor, everything golden and soft and slightly dreamlike. I was standing near the back checking items off my clipboard when she appeared beside me. I need to ask you something, she said. I looked up. Something in her voice, a careful steadiness like she had been practicing this, made my clipboard feel suddenly very heavy. The Constellation Tour starts in 3 weeks, she said. 14 cities. 2 months. She paused. I want you to come. The clipboard became heavier. Lucy. As part of the production team, she added quickly. It's a legitimate position. Tour production assistant. Real work, real pay. Another pause. But also, I want you there. Specifically you. I stared at her. I just knocked over 6 coffees. I know. On my first day. I know. I nearly took you down with me when I fell. Ella. She said my name the way she always said it, like it was something worth saying carefully. I know all of that. I still want you there. She tilted her head slightly. You are the only genuinely real thing that has walked onto one of my sets in a very long time. Do you understand what that means? Everyone around me is careful. Managed. They say the right things and stand in the right places, and nothing is ever. She searched for the word. Accidental. I am very accidental, I confirmed. Yes, she said, and she was almost smiling. You are my chaos anchor. I looked at her. That is not a real thing. It is now. Lucy, I cannot go on a 2-month music tour. I have a job. I have an apartment. I have a plant that will die if I leave. Give the plant to Dana. How do you know about Dana? You mentioned her. 3 times. In 4 days. I had not realized I had done that. The fact that she had noticed, that she had been paying that kind of attention, did something uncomfortable and wonderful to my chest simultaneously. I looked away. At the string lights. At the fog rolling slowly across the floor. At everything that was not her face. I'm scared, I said quietly. Not the performance scared, not the joking scared. The real kind. Your world is very big, Lucy. And I am very, I gestured vaguely at myself. This. She stepped in front of me. Gently, deliberately, so I had no choice but to look at her. I know your world feels small right now, she said. I know you spend most of your energy just trying to hold everything together. I know your boss makes you feel like you are always one mistake away from losing everything. She paused. But Ella, what if the mistake you are most afraid of making is the one where you say no to this? The warehouse hummed quietly around us. I thought about my alarm clock. My sad desk sandwiches. Mr. Patterson's tight little smile. I thought about the Tuesday mornings and the borrowed time and the years I had spent simply surviving rather than actually living. And then I thought about a girl with a marker and an oak tree and absolute, unshakable conviction. "Hey," I said. Lucy blinked. "Okay. Don't make me say it again. I'll lose my nerve." She smiled. The big one this time, the real one, the one that was too large for her face and lit up every corner of the room. "Pack warm," she said. "The first city is Chicago." Tour life, I discovered, was not a thing you could prepare for. You could pack carefully and make lists and set multiple alarms and tell yourself you were ready. And then the tour bus would pull away from the first venue at midnight with music playing and crew members laughing and the city lights sliding past the windows, and you would realize that ready was never actually the point. The point was to be present. To be in it. To let it happen. That first week was overwhelming in every possible way. Rehearsals began before sunrise and ran until the afternoon. Sound checks filled the early evenings. Performances consumed the nights. And in between all of it was the beautiful, exhausting, relentless machinery of a major music tour. Trucks and equipment and schedules and 100 small decisions happening simultaneously at all hours. I created disasters at a consistent and impressive rate. I tangled a microphone cable around my own ankle during a sound check and hopped in a small, undignified circle for several seconds before anyone noticed. I accidentally pressed the wrong button on a lighting board and turned every stage light deep purple during a rehearsal run, which Lucy declared was actually kind of beautiful before the lighting director declared it was absolutely not what we discussed. I walked into a glass door at the venue in Detroit. There was once again a sticker. I chose not to speak about it. But here is the thing. Lucy never flinched. Not once. Every time something went wrong, every time I stumbled or fumbled or accidentally created a minor production crisis, she was there. Not with frustration. Not with the polite, contained disappointment I had learned to expect from people who needed things to go smoothly. She was there with that laugh. With a steady hand. With the specific, irreplaceable warmth of someone who looked at your chaos and saw something worth keeping. "How are you not embarrassed for me?" I asked her one night. We were in Cincinnati, sitting on the roof of the hotel after the show, wrapped in separate blankets, the city spread quietly below us. This had become our ritual. After the noise and the crowds and the performance high faded, we came up here where it was still and dark and we could hear each other think. She considered the question seriously. "Because you are never careless," she said. "You care about everything. You care so much that you get in your own way sometimes. But that is not something to be embarrassed about." I pulled my blanket tighter. "My boss calls it operating on borrowed time." "Your boss," she said carefully, "has never seen you work a 14-hour tour day without complaining once." I looked at her. She was looking at the city, her profile quiet and clean against the night sky, and there was something so completely, painfully lovely about that moment that I almost could not stand to be inside it. "Lucy," I said, why did you really ask me to come on this tour?" She was quiet for a long time. The city hummed below us. Somewhere far away, a siren sang and faded. "Do you remember the tree?" she said. My heart stopped. Not dramatically. Not with any outward sign. Just stopped. One quiet beat of absolute stillness. "Yes," I said. "I never forgot it," she said. "I know I know we were 8. I know it was a silly thing 2 children did with a marker." She paused. "But I never forgot it. Not once. Not in 20 years. I did not trust my voice. I waited. When I saw you fall on that set," she continued, and there was something almost like a laugh in it, soft and wondering, "my first thought was, that's Ella. Before I even saw your face properly. Something in the way you moved, the way you got up, the way you looked around like you were checking if anyone saw." She shook her head slowly. "It was just you. Completely, entirely you. And I thought," she stopped. "What?" I asked quietly. She turned to look at me. And her eyes in the darkness were steady and warm and completely unguarded, with nothing between us and the truth. "I thought," she said, "that the universe has a very specific sense of humor. It happened on a Friday night in Nashville. The show had been extraordinary, even by the standards of a tour that had already produced extraordinary nights. The crowd had been electric from the first note, and Lucy had given everything she had, and by the final song the whole venue was one single living, breathing, feeling thing. I watched from the wings. I always watched from the wings. It was my favorite place on the tour, close enough to feel the heat of the stage, far enough to see the whole picture. I could see her face from here in a way the audience could not. I could see the real thing, the joy and the effort and the complete wholehearted commitment of someone doing exactly what they were born to do. The last note faded. The crowd erupted. Confetti cannons fired, silver and gold filling the air above the stage like a sudden, extravagant sky. And Lucy stood at the center of it all with her head tilted back and her eyes closed and her arms slightly open, just breathing it in. Then she opened her eyes. And she looked directly at me. Not at the crowd. Not at the cameras. At me, standing in the wings with my clipboard clutched to my chest and confetti settling in my hair. She walked toward me. The roar of the crowd was still going, enormous, endless, filling the entire building. And she walked through the falling confetti like it was nothing, like it was simply weather, and she walked directly into the wings and stopped in front of me. Her chest was still rising and falling fast from the performance. There was confetti in her hair. Her eyes were bright and dark and completely certain in a way that made every thought in my head go quiet. "Ella," she said. "Lucy," I said. My voice came out smaller than I intended. "I have been trying to find the right moment for this for 3 weeks, she said. "And I have decided there is no right moment. There is only this one." And then she closed the distance between us, gently, deliberately, the way she did everything that mattered, and she kissed me. Soft, warm, certain. The crowd was still roaring beyond the curtain. Confetti was still falling. The lights were still blazing gold and silver, and somewhere behind us a crew member was saying something into a headset about the encore setup. And none of it existed. There was only this. Her hands finding my face. The clipboard falling from my fingers. The taste of her smile against my mouth because she was smiling. I could feel it. Smiling while she kissed me like she could not help it, like this was the best thing that had happened to her all night and the show had been extraordinary. When we finally pulled back, we were both quiet for a moment. I looked at her. At the confetti in her hair and the brightness in her eyes and the smile she was not even trying to hide. I started. "Yes," she said. "I was going to say messy." "It was perfect," she said firmly. "There is confetti everywhere. Ella." I dropped my clipboard. "Ella." "What?" "Stop talking," she said softly, "and just be here." So I stopped talking. And I was there. Completely, entirely, for the first time in a very long time, I was just there. Not managing the next thing or worrying about the thing after that. Just standing in a warm, gold-lit wing of a Nashville concert hall with confetti in my hair and Lucy Collins looking at me like I was something worth finding. Later that night, we sat together on the tour bus steps outside the venue while the crew loaded out around us. The city was cool and quiet after the storm of the show. We had 2 slices of sidewalk pizza from a place 2 blocks away, the kind that comes in paper plates and requires both hands. And we were sitting close together with our shoulders touching and the night spread out easy and unhurried before us. "I used to drive past oak trees," Lucy said quietly, "and think about that promise." I looked at her. "You did. Every time." She smiled at the street. "I used to think, somewhere there is a tree with our names on it. And somewhere there is an Ella. And I wonder if she remembers." "I remembered," I said. "I know," she said. "You stood in front of my billboard for 4 minutes. Dana told you that. Dana told me that." I laughed. And she laughed. And the night held us both in it, easy and warm. Then she turned to look at me and her voice dropped to something quieter. "I love you, Ella," she said. "I think I have loved you in some form or another since we were 8 years old and you agreed to the most ridiculous promise anyone has ever made without even hesitating." I felt my eyes sting. I blinked hard. I was not going to cry over sidewalk pizza. I had standards. "It took me 4 seconds," I said. I thought about it for 4 whole seconds. The most considered 4 seconds of your life. Absolutely. I looked at her. At this woman. This extraordinary, warm, ridiculous woman who had carried a childhood promise across 20 years and 1,000 miles and delivered it back to me on a concrete floor surrounded by spilled coffee. I love you too, I said. I think I just needed to fall on my face in front of you to remember it. She reached over and took my hand. Simple, unhurried, like it was something we had always done. Promise me something, she said. The forever kind? I asked. She smiled. The forever kind. I laced my fingers through hers. Hey, I said. And here's what I know now, sitting on the other side of all of it. I know that life will not always be graceful. I know I will always be the woman who walks into glass doors and knocks over 6 coffees and trips over cables that are not hidden, not even slightly hidden at all. I know that loving someone does not make you less clumsy or less afraid or less prone to dropping your clipboard at important moments. But I also know this. The universe does not send you the people you are ready for. It sends you the people who are right for you. And right does not mean easy. Right does not mean smooth or quiet or perfectly timed. Right means the person who sees your chaos and says wonderfully. Right means the person who walks through falling confetti to find you in the wings. Right means the person who kept half of a childhood promise safe in their heart for 20 years. Waiting for the morning you would both be standing in the same place at the same time again. We went back to find that tree eventually. It was still there. Older, bigger, the bark grown rough and thick around the letters we had pressed into it with a marker on a summer afternoon when the world was small. But they were still there. Ella plus Lucy. Forever. We promise. Lucy traced the letters with her finger. Slowly, like she was reading something sacred. Still true, she said quietly. I looked at our names carved together in that old patient tree. I thought about the 8-year-old girl who had agreed in 4 seconds. I thought about the 27-year-old woman who had spent years surviving rather than living, who had walked into a set one Tuesday morning covered in someone else's coffee order and stumbled, quite literally, back into the rest of her life. Still true, I agreed. And I meant it. With everything I had and everything I was and everything I was still learning to become, I meant every single word. Because that is the thing about promises made with your whole heart. They do not expire. They just wait. Maybe, just maybe, there is a promise waiting for you too. Carved somewhere you have not looked in a while. In the memory of a person you told yourself you had forgotten. In the quiet corner of a dream you stopped letting yourself dream. In the part of your heart you locked away the day life got too loud and too heavy and too serious for forever promises. It is still there. I know it is. Because I thought mine was gone too. And then I tripped over a cable on a concrete floor. In front of 40 witnesses, I want you to know 40, and love found me anyway. So do not give up on yours. Not yet. Not ever. This has been Love Beyond Rules. Where we believe that every love story deserves to be told. That every heart deserves to be seen. And that love, real love, messy love, completely unexpected love, has never once followed the rules. If this story meant something to you, share it. Right now. With the person who first came to your mind while you were listening. You already know who that is. Subscribe so you never miss a story. And leave us a comment below. Tell us about a promise you have never quite forgotten. We will be here. Waiting. Just like promises do.